Now, let me tell you a little bit about this. This is the style that brought me to the to the bridal industry. Until 2.5 years ago, I only did cuts and color. I didn't know anything about bridal. I didn't even know how to braid. I had a client of mine, and she told me, Lala, I wanted to do my hair for my wedding. And I said, no, you don't want me to do your hair for your wedding. I'm like the last person you wanted to touch your hair for your wedding. She was so convincing, and she insisted so much that I agreed to do her hair for her wedding. We did a trial. She only wanted some curls pinned up, and I'm like, I can curl. I know how to curl and pin. I can totally do that. On the day of the wedding, she came to me with a picture with a big bun on the back, that clean, neat bun on the back. You know, that all the brides, the classic look. I'm like, there is no way in the world I can do that, girl. She was like, Lala, I trust you. You can totally do this. You can totally do this. Well, let me tell you, when I was done, it looked like I shoved some socks in there, and I put her hair on top of those socks. So it wasn't pretty at all. Let me go over this a little bit because the foundation is the most important thing. It looks like it's not important, but it is important because that's what makes the difference between your style and another bridal stylist. That's what makes the difference between charging $75 up to $500. The foundation. The old rules that you learn in school, or not really, because they don't teach us a lot in school. But let's talk a little bit about this because this is the most important part, the foundation of any updo that you're doing out there. First of all, your section should never ever be wider than your brush because if I take this much section and my brush is this much, how much do you think is going to be teased? Only this much, unless you're doing this. But when you do this, you have separation. That section is not blended in. So every time I tease the hair, I'm not going with sections wider than my brush. Now, we have all this wide crown in here, right? You're going to ask me, what are we doing with the rest of the hair? Well, we're going in a bricklayer pattern. So instead of going with one section, we're going with two. Let me share a secret with you. I have discovered, because most of my clientele, they are Russians, Armenians, Mexicans. I'm working with really coarse, really very hard hair to control. So I have discovered that every time I tease the crown, it's best to go on a diamond shape, meaning I'm starting small with small section, I'm going big, and then I'm going small again. And the reason for that, I have discovered that if I do that, I leave a lot of hair outside. And I put that in a ponytail. So all that extra hair, when I pull that crown down, I'm not going to have to deal with that bulk on the sides. Do you guys get that? With a lot of, and it's so hard, and you're trying to not mess what you just did there, and you're trying to make that hair listen to you, and it's such a struggle. So that's a tip for you to not deal with that. You're going on a diamond shape. So I went with one, and now I'm going with two. Now, when I grab this section and I tease, very important. A lot of people are telling me, I don't like to tease because it's messy. I'm telling you, the more you tease, the more control you have over the hair and the cleaner the up style will be. But it's very important the way you're teasing because when does that become messy? It becomes messy when you do not put tension on that section. When I'm holding this, if I leave that loose, you see what I'm doing? I'm pulling the hair from the roots all the way to the, from the ends all the way to the roots. That's when it becomes messy. So very important, when you're teasing that, you have to put tension on it so you don't grab any hair and pull it down. Another thing that is very important about teasing is that every time you touch the hair with a brush, you have to use the hairspray to set in place whatever you're doing. Another thing about the volume. A lot of people are telling me, I'm teasing, and it's just messy, but I don't get that bump. A lot of the brides like that big bump, the New Jersey bump, how do they call it? And they're like, it's just not working. Well, let's talk about that, the volume. If you're looking just to control the roots, 2 fingers to 3 fingers would be enough. If you're trying to achieve volume and height, you go mid-shaft. So when I'm teasing all the way to the mid-shaft of that section. So the higher you go with the teasing, the higher the bump is going to be and the closer to heaven, right? So going for this one, I'm trying not to put this hairspray in between my legs. What's going on? There we go. Why do I start on the top? I always start my updos on the top, and the reason for that, because most of my clients, they're coming with the hair super clean. Like we said, we educate them, but they don't listen. So I want that style. That's the first part that you see when you see a bride or a bridesmaid, whatever. So when they sit in my chair, I don't want that style to last only for 20, 30 to 30 minutes. I want to make sure that lasts the whole day. So that's why I start on the top, because first of all, number one rule to have really clean updos is to not work around the hair. Have the hair that you're not using away from your work area. That will give you a very clean look. Second, this has time to dry and set. So by the time I'm done with the back, when I'm pulling that hair down, I have a feeling, do I have to work more on this? Does it need more teasing? Does it need more product? That's why I start on the top. Now I went with 2, and now I'm going to go with 1. Remember what I said about the diamond shape? Yes? No? Why do we do it on a diamond shape? There you go. I didn't hear what you said, but I agree with you. Now, we're going to I always leave the sides out. Doesn't matter what style I do. Unless they want all the hair up, then I'm not worried about that. The reason I leave the sides out is because a lot of brides, they don't like to see any hair jewelries in the hair. If that's the case, you're going to need that extra hair to cover whatever needs to be covered on the back. Make sense? Okay, now every time I put the hair in a ponytail for this kind of up styles, I use a regular elastic. And the reason for that, it's because the small rubber bands are breaking. So I have discovered that it's best to use a regular rubber band instead of the small ones. Now, the position of the ponytail is very important. If they want a high bun, you're going to go higher. If they want a low bun, you're going to go as low as possible. And the reason for that, we are going to go with the filler on top of that. So when we go with that filler on top of it, we're going a little bit over the ponytail. So that means you're going to lift that bun a little bit up. So if you want a really low bun, make sure that you you position that ponytail as low as possible. Where is my thingy? Oh, there it is. I recommend you guys to buy one of these. This is the best thing to have in your kit. The magnetic bracelet. You guys can find it at the behind the chair online. It's called the Nicholas French bracelet. Very important when you put this up, make sure that you put it flat. You don't roll it, because you're going to have to grab that hair and put it on top of this filler. And if it's twisted, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's another thing that is very important. When you secure this, can you guys see I'm grabbing a little bit from the filler and then a little bit from the hair? We all know when we over direct the hair, the bobby pins, they hold better, right? But for some reason, I bought some bobby pins that they are not good at all. I'm not going to say where I bought them. So, because this is boring, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I came in this country in 2010, again, with a small suitcase, a 1.5 years old daughter. I got a job as a property manager a few months after I came here because none of my education was recognized. 2 years later, I got sick and tired of evictions and collections and bad guys, and I decided to go to school and take my license again in California because the one from Romania wasn't recognized. So I went to school. I graduated in 2009, rented a chair in a salon, and started to work as a stylist part-time. I was working full-time from 8 to 4 o'clock, and I was going to school from 4 to 11:30 every day. I would get home at 1 o'clock, and I would start cleaning and ironing and making sure that my daughter has everything for the second day. And I will study in the office for my tests. And on weekends, I would go and work in senior houses. I worked 3 jobs for 9 years. I didn't go anywhere further than San Francisco because I couldn't afford it. I never had a babysitter for my daughter because I couldn't afford it. So I lived from a check to another for 9 years. And then that story happened with my client. I bought a mannequin doll, started to practice, and the rest is history. In the last 3 years, I won the 2015 Behind the Chair Award, the updo category. I got my work published in all the magazines out there, you name it. I got from working 3 jobs to working weekends only, and now I mainly educate. So that small town girl that came here with a small suitcase and $300 in her pocket with a small child and no English and big dreams eventually made it big. Why do I love to share my story with you? Because I want to show you guys that it is possible. If it was possible for me coming in this country only 11 years ago, having English as a second language, having a small child, working 3 jobs for 9 years. Do you know how many times I packed and I wanted to go back home? In the first 3 years, almost every weekend. But I was determined to make it, and I did make it. So if you're at that point in your career where you think, because it might look like we made it where we at overnight, but we really didn't. It was a lot of sacrifices. It was a really hard road. We didn't make it where we are today overnight. So if you're at that point in your career where you feel like, oh, I spend enough time here, I'm not making enough money, I'm not going to make it, nobody recognized my work, I'm telling you, try one more time before you quit. Look where that brought me. The decision to not quit, because when I had that failure with that lady that was 2 hours late for her wedding and I messed up her hair, I quit on doing hair for 2 months. But then I got back on my feet and I'm so glad I did. And I didn't go home and I'm so glad I didn't do. Now, when we're taking these sections down, don't take shortcuts. Take section by section, spread the hair over, and you apply hairspray top to bottom. The reason for that, when you're going to grab those sections, it's very important to have hairspray on them because it's going to be really easy for you to control them. When you secure that filler, you need to leave 3 fingers out right here underneath. I left 3 fingers. That will be the space for me to tuck those ends in when I'm done with spreading the hair over this bun. If you have a client that has really long hair, probably those 3 fingers that you left in there is not going to be enough. If that's the case, you're going to get a small rubber band. You are going to secure that underneath, split that extra hair in 2, and pin it around the bun. If you have a client that has really thick and really long hair. I was in 2 years ago when I started to teach classes. I was in Texas and I had a lady who took my class there. She was 76. She was retired, and for some reason she wanted to learn how to do updos. So she came to my class. She sat in the front row there, and she was quiet the whole time. She was smiling here and there, and I was like, this is a person who knows it all, because it looked like I didn't impress her at all. And when I had 3 minutes left from my class, she said, young lady, that's it. I cannot take it anymore. I have to tell you this. You are absolutely unprofessional. I love your techniques. You're very sweet. I love your story. You're very good as a stylist, but you are completely unprofessional. You can imagine my face when she said that in front of the whole class, right? I'm like, is she talking to me? When we're grabbing this, I'm grabbing this with all my fingers, and I'm just tucking those ends in. You guys see? You think you can go more perfect than that? That's the beauty of those fillers. You don't have to struggle to do all that teasing, and I'm running out of bobby pins. So I looked at that lady and I said, I appreciate your input, and I would love to know what I did wrong and how I can fix my performance. So she said, the whole time you were opening those bobby pins with your mouth, I got better at that, by the way, and you were holding that hairspray in between your legs the whole time. She was like, that's a big no-no. And I will tell you the story after I put this down. This is the time when we're going back and we kind of get a feel if we have to work more on this. That's why I started in the beginning from the top. Because when I'm done with the back, and of course with the back you're going to take the time to put more bobby pins than I put in there. I'm just trying to rush so you can see right between my legs again. Yes. I cannot work on that. I worked on the bobby pin thing, but I cannot work on this. It feels so familiar, you know. So we clean this. Now, a lot of the times, even if you're going for that shape, you're still gonna get the bulk. So when I have that happening, let's say I wanna do this. You see this over here? I'm gonna take this, crisscross it. That way I got rid of that bulk.